And hello once again. We are back with a second panel here. And the second panel is going to focus on building a safer and more innovative transportation system. I'm joined here by Bercman Technologies, Eyevi, and Auve Tech. And we all know that transport security has become more sensitive problem that affects all kind of transport users and of course also the providers. I think it should be a basic right to be able to travel without any kind of fear to become a victim of any kind of accident while having also a very great time and experience as a passenger or a pedestrian. The number of deaths and injuries remains very high, and that's why the European Union has adopted the Vision Zero and also the safe system approach to decrease the number of deaths and serious injuries on the road. The Commission has been very active in promoting different rules and standards and organizing, of course, also different campaigns to raise awareness here. My first question to our speakers today from Bercman, Eyevi, and Auve Tech is that can you elaborate in a couple of sentences only? How does your company support the European Union goal to reduce the number of deaths and injuries by 50%, as it's stated by the year of 2030? Maybe we can start with you here.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree that road safety is the most important aspect of our transportation. So I'm happy that Eyevi is able also to help to build our safer traffic. It starts from building safe road infrastructure. And that's where we are enabling the 3D data to analyze the visibility, analyze the safety objects or the lack of them, analyze the traffic models, and so on. This all gives enough insights to understand blind spots and improve.
And maybe we can move all the way to Mart. Maybe you can talk about how does your company improve the system that we could have less deaths by the year 2030?
Yeah, I agree with what Gaspar is saying about the blind spots. And this is what we do. We try to detect all the road users and try to see in advance where they are going to be heading. Of course, this is somewhat taking the responsibility away from the road user, but at the same time, we need to know. If we want to eliminate traffic fatalities, then this is one of the very crucial aspects. And also from our side, we think that the communication between all the traffic entities is very, very important part.
And I know that also your solution helps to analyze later on when some accidents have been happening, but we're going to go to the details with this a little bit later. Taavi, maybe you can also add just very shortly about the Auvetech.
Two things. First of all, autonomous driving is safer, especially when you use predetermined 3D maps, when you use smart infrastructure. The situation awareness of autonomous vehicles is much better than any humans. He can see 360 degrees, sense distances automatically, do lots of calculations that none of us can do. But also, talking about injuries, especially during Estonian winter, the biggest injuries are actually people falling at the streets. So, or the most common injuries, let's say. And this is also something, if we provide last mile transport to those areas where, let's say, elderly people move, again, we can skip a lot of injuries in very difficult weather conditions.
But I would continue with you, Taavi. As we know that the Vision Zero requires much safer vehicles, safer infrastructure, lower speeds, and better post-crash care. So Auvetech is developing autonomous transportation system, and you provide an alternative means of transportation and traffic environment that should be, first of all, safe, secondly, smart, and of course also sustainable. Now, when we are focusing on these three words that I just mentioned, how are the autonomous vehicles providing a safer environment? And do you think that our passengers are ready to drive in a shuttle without any kind of driver, and how they can trust the AI technology to do all the work?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question, because it's not the technology that's the bottleneck. It's usually the overall acceptance of the society and also legislation, of course. And I do believe that legislation has to move gradually and slowly with the experience developing. So that's the reason why we are at the kind of slow and today's end of autonomous transportation, because this is ready also to be accepted by the society. People have a pleasurable experience driving slowly with seat belts without the risk of actually having a fatal accident. Whereas driving 100 kilometers hours from one city to another fully autonomously, it takes time to accept this as well. But I assure you that also driving very fast, actually the cars are capable. It's more the question of whether we as passengers or our legislators are ready to accept that.
All right. But now again, bringing out some of the numbers. So let's talk about when we compare the numbers of the previous years, fewer people have lost their lives on the European roads in 2019. An estimated 22,800 people died in road crashes in 2019, which is around 7,000 fewer than in the year 2010. And the decrease has been around 23% there. Europe today remains the safest region in the world when it comes to road safety in a way. And the European Commissioner for Transport has stated that they want to see 50% less deaths and serious injuries by the 2030, as I said before. So she's very much convinced that this target is achievable in a way. She also referred that enhancing the combination of legislative measures, funding standards for vehicles, and of course also the infrastructure, and not to mention the entire digitalization process. Do you think that this goal is achievable? And I would refer this question to Mart especially, and maybe you can also talk about that you have been developing your solution in a couple of different countries. So I had a very great discussion with one of your colleagues who brought out the experience that you had in Finland. So first of all, the question is this goal achievable? And maybe you can just also bring out some of the examples of development process in different countries.
Yeah, thank you. The problem with the statistics is that we are 7,000 fatalities, let's say, away from what the European Union wanted by 2020. So even if it's slowly going better, the improvements have kind of flatlined. So we are falling behind of our safety targets, and because we are falling behind our safety targets, we need to really accelerate some other processes to catch up. And that's why we think that the technology have a very, very great impact, and in cooperation as well. Like all the different stakeholders, they must come together, all the technology providers, they need to work towards the same goal as one, basically. And what we were piloting one of our previous generation products in Helsinki, and there's a lot of fun stories from that period, because it was for us as well a learning time to what it means to develop hardware, what it means to develop custom software for it. What it means to interact with people, how many different cases there is when interacting people, like every person is interacting differently, and so on. So we piloted the second generation smart pedestrian crosswalk in Finland, and we learned a lot of good lessons, which now have concluded in terms of third generation smart pedestrian crosswalk, and we are very happy with the piloting process itself and what we learned from that.
Yeah, and I especially heard like the feedback that you collected from the users, like the citizens that had to be walking on the streets there, were like very, very essential for you, again, in order to make this solution even better. And I think this is how we should be operating. But now, Gaspar, to you. So Eyevi makes road infrastructure digitalization much more sustainable and cost effective. And there are a number of different solutions that you offer. I don't know, just starting from traffic management system, we can see the conditions of the road, hardware, sensors, navigational datasets, and of course also innovative 3D digital twins for cities. Today, Estonia actually has a fully 3D model of all structures located both above and below the ground. How to use digital twins for effective city management and forecasting the future?
Yeah, thanks. Like I was a bit referred before, that it's simulating the future scenarios. And I think Estonia has made something great to showcase that not many countries can say to have this data set available for the entire country area. So taking this data set and now using it as our geospatial transformation and building up these layers of digital data on top of that will help to start simulating not only the city, but many aspects of our everyday lives. I really believe that I'm a very strong believer, of course, that all efficiency will lie on the analyzing of the data. And that's definitely one way to go. So great job, Estonia.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I invited especially these three companies here into this panel here is because in order to make one of their solutions to work, they need to have the other solution working in a way. So maybe you can just, like whoever wants to talk about, like how is your cooperation between you guys being also organized in a way? So I know that in order to make autonomous vehicles to work, we also need a solution that is provided by Eyevi. So I don't know, maybe someone of you want to talk about that.
Well, I can start.
Yeah, it's always good to have a client insight.
Exactly, as Auvetech has been using Eyevi 3D maps or for our driving. In principle, it's possible to do it without the pre-mapped as well, but it's so much safer to use the map to increase the situation awareness of the car. So the car, while it's driving, doesn't need to calculate so much, doesn't need to measure so much. I mean, some of the things like we avoid doing in real time, and thus we become so much safer, so much I think safety is the most important key aspect of that. And also we have been discussing also with Bercman what kind of solutions would help our cars that they are providing, and something I believe that are actually very important are how to get rid of blind spots. Just like humans, also autonomous vehicles, they can't do miracles. They cannot see around the corner, for example. If there is a building, it needs to stop and look around the corner with the lidars or cameras. This can be actually avoided if there is a lidar or whatever sensor up on the lamppost that sends the signal that there is a car approaching from the left, but you have 7 seconds, or that calculation can basically be done by the car himself. So this kind of combined solutions will take actually our services to next level, and it's definitely wise to work together with different very good Estonian companies.
You want to add something as
well? Yeah, I would add that it's definitely great to work with this innovation and technology company, Auvetech, and provide them the digital infrastructure. But yeah, it's important to understand that already today our roads are living two lives. So we have a physical roads that we all seen, but the digital side of the road infrastructure is growing. And while we reduce the traffic in the physical side, our traffic in the digital side is going exponentially up. And that's something that all the road authorities and transport agencies need to start considering. The road infrastructure will be a combination of these two quite soon already.
Right. Another reminder to the audience, once again, you can ask questions too. And we already have received a couple of questions from our audience, which I'm going to read to our speakers here. So we're living in an aging society. So the baby boomer generation in Europe will retire around 2030. The moment this generation will give up on driving licenses, will autonomous driving then enable the autonomous living outside of the cities? Will these cars be available, affordable, and fully operating on any sort of a road? I guess this question is for Taavi.
Yes, they will. And what makes them affordable in a way is no need for human driver. I mean, if you compare with the overall cost of transportation, the human driver is still a considerable part of it. And this we can skip with autonomous driving. Today we still need legally a human to be able to take over whenever the autonomous vehicle is driving, but this can be done remotely via teleoperation. This can be done in such a way that one human is taking care of, let's say, 10 cars or a fleet of cars. So yes, this will be available, and as we are speaking right now, there are autonomous vehicles driving in Estonia and several other countries.
All right. Now I have a question to Mart, to you. So I know that municipalities usually have some priorities in choosing which areas to start with implementing your smart pedestrian crosswalk solutions. Maybe you can just talk about like what have been your experiences, like how they have chosen the exact like areas where they would like to start with. Have there been any kind of trends in there?
Yeah, usually the requests are coming in where the most vulnerable road users are, namely children, bicycles, and so on. So I think we have like 40 to 50% of those smart pedestrian crosswalk systems are requested to be near kindergartens or schools, to be exact. And I think one of the main reasons is that our product is perhaps a good alternative for a traffic light, and also with the functionality I touched upon in my speech before, which is this hazardous situation detection. We use cameras, and at the moment we use also the radars to combine the data and understand where everybody are and where are they heading to. So we are aware 1 or 2 seconds before it happens. So we can react really quickly, and from the research it is said that 750 milliseconds is what one road user needs to have this accident or prevented.
And I know that also you have some very ambitious plans for the future in order to, like I would say, increase the communication with emergency response center. In the most enthusiastic scenario, how would this look like?
Yeah, as we know, European Union now requires all new cars to have this e-call option. So if you crash your car, it automatically calls the emergency response. And what we want to do is the same thing, but from the infrastructure point of view. It's not a very big problem here in Estonia that if someone is getting hit by the car on the crosswalk, that the car leaves. But in some other countries in Europe, the rate of hit and run is 40%. So it's a lot of people just hitting the people and running away. So, and also the statistical point of view, if we can automatically detect the accident and let the automatically emergency services know, the response time would come down around 40%, which can be a matter of life and death.
This can really got some impact on there, and I can't wait for that time to work. But a question to you, all of our speakers here, very shortly. When do we expect the traffic to be fully automated? Just any kind of time.
Taavi,
it's a very, very difficult question, as this is human action topic, human acceptance topic, not so much technology topic, as I mentioned. As an optimist, I would say that we are talking about, let's say 10 to 15 to 20 years. It depends on what means fully automated, but it can at least be fully automated by that time. Will it be? Difficult to say, because the changes don't happen overnight. But what we will see definitely is public transport, lorries, extension of public transport, last mile, both in people and goods delivery. This will be fully autonomous much sooner than the rest of the transport.
Any time for you guys?
I would just add on that it's very difficult to predict, and I don't predict future. I enable it. So whenever it happens, thanks to Eyevi, it will happen sooner.
All right, and we have to detect and predict. So our idea is that in 10 years, it's very likely that you can't get your technical passport for your vehicle if you don't have the communication module. And of course, I think 20 years is when you can't really steer on your own in the cities, for example.
Before we go to the very last question that I have for you, I also wanted to talk about the cyber attacks, because we know that they are continuously becoming a stronger weapons. And when we would have fully automated and autonomous traffic, it has its risk factors too. How do you ensure that the safety has been provided in Auvetech? Because, I mean, if there is an attack happening and we have a bus that has no driver, how do you make sure that I can trust this?
Again, I very much like this question as to, like, always if foreigners look at e-Estonia or Estonian e-service, also the government services, sometimes they see that, okay, but there are risks. Yes, there are, of course, but we address the risks and we take note of the risks. So there is no such thing as perfect world, and if we know what the risks are, we can easily take care of them. Now, for our buses, they are connected. They use mobile network, ideally 5G, but in real life it's mostly 4G. And if they lose connection, they are programmed to stop safely, no problem. This is the most easy cyber attack, if I may say, just jamming the connection. Now, but nothing bad will happen because of that. Now, more serious thing is if somebody attempts to take over the teleoperation of the car. But this is something that we have been heavily investing in to enable safe, secure channels between car and teleoperation. And again, the car can be programmed if it detects that there is some malfunction, some hostile activity. It can be programmed to stop slowly and just lock itself in a way. Right. So yes, of course, we need to address those topics.
We're running out of time, but I still want to ask my very last question. So you only have one single sentence. So a question to all of you. With one sentence, what is the added value of your business to build a safer and more sustainable traffic environment? Let's start from here, Gaspar.
Towards the safe and sustainable road infrastructure management through data-driven analytics.
Yeah, for us as well, providing and gathering the data and also saving lives.
Being able to use more public transport instead of personal cars enables to save immense amount of CO2 emissions and also save valuable city space to be used better than parking lots.
Thank you for your fantastic answers, and I really enjoyed this panel discussion with you.